It is considered one of the most brutal psychological weapons ever created. A tool so harsh that it leaves no physical scars but destroys the mind from the inside out. 47 countries have officially banned it. They call it inhumane, a violation of basic human rights. And yet, right now, in some interrogation rooms across the world, it is still being used. What is this technique? And why do some law enforcement agencies refuse to give it up despite the global outrage? Because it works. It gets confessions. It breaks people who refuse to break. But the cost is higher than you could ever imagine. We are talking about sleep deprivation, but not the kind you are thinking of. This is not simply keeping someone awake for a night. This is a calculated, controlled, and often legal form of torture. The goal is simple: destroy a person's ability to think clearly. Strip away their sanity. Make them forget what is real and what is a dream. The method has been refined over decades. It has been used in high-profile terror cases, political arrests, and even routine criminal investigations. And while the world claims to have rejected it, the truth is far more disturbing. Let us go back to where this all began. The practice became widely known in the early 2000s. It emerged during a period of intense global fear. Governments were searching for answers. They were desperate for intelligence. In that climate, traditional methods felt too slow. Interrogators wanted speed. They wanted results at any cost. And so, they turned to extreme sleep manipulation. The basic idea is medical. When a person is deprived of sleep, the brain starts to malfunction. The frontal lobe shuts down. This is the part of the brain that controls reasoning and decision-making. Without it, a person becomes suggestible. They lose their ability to plan, to lie, or to resist. The average human needs around 7 to 8 hours of sleep to function. But these interrogators push that limit to the extreme. 40 hours, 50 hours, sometimes over 100 hours without a single moment of rest. And the environment was just as important as the lack of sleep. They kept rooms at freezing temperatures. They played loud, repetitive noises. They forced prisoners to stand in painful positions. The human body is resilient, but there is a breaking point. And once that point is reached, the mind becomes a blank slate. It is willing to accept any narrative presented to it. 47 countries have signed treaties against this practice. The United Nations has condemned it. Human rights organizations call it a form of torture. And yet, the practice still exists in a legal gray area. In the United States, it was officially banned for military personnel. But reports indicate that the CIA continued using similar tactics well after the ban. They called it enhanced interrogation, a softer term for a brutal reality. The public did not know the full extent of it until classified documents were leaked. Those documents shocked the world. They described scenarios where prisoners were kept awake for nearly 2 weeks. They were subjected to continuous sensory overload. They were denied basic human comfort. The goal was not to gather information. The goal was to break a human being completely. And the horrifying truth is that it often worked. But the cost was devastating. Many of these prisoners suffered from lifelong hallucinations. They developed severe paranoia. Their ability to distinguish between memory and fantasy was permanently damaged. In some cases, they confessed to crimes they never committed. They confessed to anything just to make the pain stop. But here is the twist. This technique is not used exclusively on terrorists or hardened criminals. It is being used on ordinary people. In 2021, a shocking case emerged from a small town in the Midwest. A man was brought in for questioning about a burglary. He had no criminal record. He was a father of 2. Within 24 hours of detention, he began acting strangely. By hour 48, he had confessed to a string of robberies that he clearly did not commit. The police had no physical evidence against him. They only had his confession. The case went to trial. The defense argued that the confession was coerced. The prosecution argued that the confession was voluntary. It took 3 years for the truth to come out. Audio recordings from the interrogation room were finally released. You could hear the officers questioning him in shifts. They never let him sleep. Every time his head drooped, they shook him awake. They yelled at him. They threatened him with life in prison. They played the same loud music over and over again. By the end of the recording, the man was sobbing. He was begging for a pillow. He said he would say anything they wanted. He said he wanted to die. This was not a terrorist. This was a neighbor, a regular citizen who was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. And the officers knew exactly what they were doing. They did not need physical violence. They had a system. What is most disturbing is the justification. Many law enforcement agencies argue that sleep deprivation is not torture. They compare it to training. They say that soldiers endure sleepless nights. They say that new parents survive on little rest. But there's a crucial difference. In those situations, sleep is eventually allowed. In interrogation, it is deliberately weaponized. The patterns are unnatural. The subject is not allowed to achieve REM sleep. This is the stage where the brain processes emotions and memories. Without REM sleep, the brain becomes trapped. It cannot heal. It cannot reset. Imagine being awake for 3 days straight. Now imagine being forced to answer complex questions during that time. Your answers would be nonsensical. You would lose track of who you are. You would agree to anything. And this is precisely why the method is so effective and so dangerous. You might think that this is ancient history. You might think that modern technology has replaced these brutal tactics. But a recent investigation found that a variation of this technique is still used in several countries. They have updated the method. They now use light manipulation. They use white noise machines. They use sleep schedules that are intentionally fragmented. They wake prisoners every 15 minutes. It is cleaner. It is harder to prove. But the effect is exactly the same. The human mind still breaks. It is still vulnerable. And as long as there are no cameras in the interrogation rooms, the abuse continues. There is no international oversight. There is no global police force to stop it. The blacklist of countries banning it means nothing if there is no enforcement. It is like a rule without a punishment. It is a promise that is easily broken. So what does this mean for you? It means that the law is not always protecting the innocent. It means that a confession is not always the truth. It means that the system can be manipulated. And it means that we have to ask ourselves a difficult question. Is safety worth the cost of our humanity? If we allow these methods to exist, even in secret, are we any better than the criminals we are trying to catch? This is not a question of politics. This is a question of morality. It is about who we are as a society. It is about whether we value justice or just the appearance of it. The next time you hear about a confession in the news, remember this story. Remember the man from the Midwest. Remember the sleepless nights. Remember the systems that are designed to manipulate. We have made progress. We have banned these techniques on paper, but paper does not stop a determined interrogator. Only transparency can do that. Only awareness can do that. And that is why stories like this need to be told. If you found this story eye-opening, drop a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think sleep deprivation should ever be allowed? Should there be stricter global laws with real consequences? Hit that like button if you believe in truth. Subscribe to stay informed about the hidden side of our world. There are more stories like this that need to be uncovered. Stay aware, stay curious, and never forget the power of a story. But the story does not end with that man from the Midwest. That was just one case, one example of a system that has learned to hide its darkest tools. The reality is that sleep deprivation has evolved. It has gone digital. In recent years, intelligence agencies have started using advanced algorithms to maximize psychological stress. They monitor heart rates, they track eye movements. They can now determine exactly when a subject is about to reach their breaking point. And they push right up to that line. They do not cross it in an obvious way. They stop just short of what the law defines as torture. It is a legal loophole. It is a technicality. And it is being exploited every single day. Consider the case of a British citizen who was detained in 2023. He was not a soldier. He was not a spy. He was a businessman traveling through Dubai. He was accused of financial crimes. The evidence against him was flimsy at best. But the interrogators did not care about evidence. They cared about compliance. They kept him awake for 96 hours, 4 full days without sleep. They cycled officers in and out of the room every 2 hours. Fresh faces, new voices, constant questioning. No breaks, no silence, no rest. They offered him food but never let him eat in peace. They gave him water, but only in small sips. By the third day, he started hallucinating. He saw his dead mother sitting in the corner of the room. He heard voices that were not there. He started talking to himself. And then finally, he signed a confession. He confessed to money laundering. He confessed to fraud. He confessed to crimes he had never even heard of. He signed everything they put in front of him. He would have signed a death warrant just to close his eyes for 5 minutes. That confession was used to freeze his assets. His company collapsed. His family lost everything. And when he was finally released, he could not even remember signing the documents. His memory was gone, wiped out by exhaustion. This is the hidden cost of these techniques. It is not just about false confessions. It is about destroying lives beyond the interrogation room. People who go through this are never the same. They suffer from chronic insomnia. They suffer from anxiety disorders. They have nightmares that last for years. Their relationships fall apart. Their careers end. They become shells of their former selves. And the interrogators know this. They are trained to understand the long-term effects. They just do not care. Because for them, the mission is everything. The case is everything. The confession is the only thing that matters. The human being on the other side of the table is just an obstacle, a problem to be solved, a mind to be broken. But there is hope. There are people fighting back. In 2025, a landmark ruling came out of the European Court of Human Rights. They ruled that sleep deprivation, when used systematically, is a form of cruel and unusual punishment. They ordered compensation for victims. They demanded stricter oversight of interrogation practices. It was a victory, but it was a small one, because the ruling only applies to Europe. The rest of the world is still a patchwork of laws and loopholes. Some countries have no laws against it at all. In those places, sleep deprivation is used openly. It is used on journalists. It is used on activists. It is used on anyone who speaks out against the government. It is a tool of control, a weapon of silence. And here is the scariest part. You do not have to be in a foreign country to be at risk. Recent reports from the United States show that local police departments have started using similar techniques. They call it fatigue interviewing. It sounds official. It sounds professional. But it is the same thing. Keep the suspect awake. Wear them down. Break their will. They are not using it on terrorists. They are using it on teenagers. They are using it on college students. They are using it on people caught with small amounts of drugs, people who have never committed a violent crime in their lives. The threshold is getting lower. The abuse is becoming normal, and nobody is watching. So, what can we do about it? The first step is awareness. The second step is demand. We need to demand that all interrogations are recorded. We need to demand that a lawyer is present at all times. We need to demand that medical professionals monitor the health of detainees. These are not radical ideas. These are basic human rights. But they are rights that are constantly being ignored. Because it is easier to look away. It is easier to trust the system. It is easier to believe that it would never happen to you. But that is the biggest lie of all. The man from the Midwest never thought it would happen to him. The businessman from Britain never thought it would happen to him. They were ordinary people, just like you, just like me, and they were broken by a system that values results over humanity. That is the real crime here. Not the burglaries, not the financial fraud. The real crime is the destruction of the human mind. The real crime is the silence that surrounds it. We have to break that silence. We have to talk about this. We have to share these stories. Because when people know what is happening, they can no longer pretend. They can no longer ignore. This is not about fear. This is about truth. This is about standing up for what is right. It is about understanding that justice cannot exist without transparency. And it is about remembering that every confession is not a confession until it is proven to be voluntary. Until we see the whole picture. Until we know how the words were obtained. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring. If this story moved you, if it made you angry, or if it made you think, Do not keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Share it with a friend. Share it with a family member. Share it with anyone who believes that justice should be fair. We need more people to see this. We need more people to understand. Because only then can we truly change the system. Only then can we protect the innocent. Drop a comment below. Tell me what you think. Have you ever heard of cases like this in your own country? Do you think these techniques should be banned everywhere without exception? I want to hear your voice. I want to hear your perspective. And if you have not already, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the notification bell. There are many more stories waiting to be uncovered. Stories that will challenge everything you thought you knew. Stories that will make you question the world around you. This is just the beginning. The truth is out there, and we will keep searching for it. Together. Stay strong, stay aware, and never stop questioning.